Hello, hello, hello. Thank you all for joining us on Guiding Lights. This show, well, let me start with I am Alexis Nelson. I am the founder of Be Exceptional Support Together. We endeavor to do with Guiding Lights, we bring on people who have exceptional stories because they're a part of an exceptional family. We endeavor to make sure that we create awareness for exceptional families and all families. We want everyone to be aware of the journey. We want to make sure that our exceptional families get to share because there's a lot of exceptional families out there who need advice, who need support, who need to be encouraged. And so that is what we have been endeavoring to do. I am so excited because today I have on two dear friends of mine, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to get into this conversation because I know it's going to be great. And it's going to give light to all those who are watching. I want to remind you be a guiding light, like, and share so we can spread awareness to everybody, everywhere. All right. So please introduce yourselves. Tell us a little about who you are, your background, and we're going to get into some questions so we can help our communities.
I gotta let ladies go first, Lex.
Ah, okay.
Okay, well, my name is Tanika Lockett. I am a parent of a son with a disability. He's diagnosed on the autism spectrum, as well as recently diagnosed with epilepsy. He is 20, he just turned 20 in September. He just graduated from high school as well. He's currently now in a transitional program here in Texas. I'm also a early childhood special education pre-K teacher. So we service students that's coming from early intervention that phases out of those intervention services at the age of 3. I'm currently in my second year of teaching in that setting.
Wow. First of all, wait a minute. Did you say he is 20 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm lost for words because I can't believe he's 20 years old now. Wow, wow. So thank you for sharing. So let's
Lex,
mhm.
Lex, I'm at a loss for words because I don't look that old.
Look at you. See, lock it.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
and I have a lot of different questions because you all play a dual role. And before I even get to the educational piece, I still want to hear about you, Mr. Lockett. And so you can tell us who you are and what you do and all of that good stuff.
Absolutely. So right now, this is year 18 in education. I'm a graduate of, a product of the Gary Public School System, graduate of Indiana University Northwest. We got to say IU in the house.
You.
Started at Lighthouse Charter School as a inclusion resource teacher, uh, coordinator for about 7 years. Transitioned from that role into a role as a teacher, inclusion support teacher. Been in dual roles as a special education uh, department chairperson, case manager, uh, executive director of SPED in Houston Independent School District, largest district in the state of Texas. Now I'm currently serving in Duncanville ISD as a special education specialized programs coordinator. It's a lifelong journey. We live uh, 24/7 supporting a son with a disability, but also supporting and advocating for students with disabilities who may not necessarily have parents with the information necessary to uh, provide the best for their kids. So it's just a God given responsibility to support uh, a son whom I love and am well pleased, but support students across this country as a whole. And just because I'm not living in Indiana, we've made connections across this country, and we provide support from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the live tonight, and hope that we share something that would be uh, beneficial and useful for the listening audience.
Oh, I know you will, because I don't even know where to start, because I'm in between, going back between you and your wife, and you said a mouthful what you all do, and you actually have a dual role. It's one thing, I'm a parent and I'm also an educator. And sometimes, when I'm not the educator, so I'm coming in like, what is wrong with this system, right?
Mhm.
And where is the disconnect? And how is it that some families are not aware of their rights educationally for their exceptional children and adults? How can we bridge that gap? So, but you all have both ends of it. You can speak as from a parent's perspective as well as an educator. And we're going to dig in so you can tell us more about that. But first, I want you to share a little bit more about your exceptional son. And I want to start with mom.
Okay. Well, let me just say this. I was corrected earlier by our daughter when I was telling her about what we were doing, and we was focused on Terrell, because when you think about exceptional needs, when you think about the special population, you automatically go to things like autism, maybe Down syndrome. But special population covers a magnitude of children with exceptional needs, from GT to individuals that need services through special education. And she said, Mom, you have two exceptional children, because one, she's diagnosed with ADHD and she has a 504 plan, but she's also gifted and talented. So when I say we have this whole special population in our household, we truly do have it from A to Z.
Wow.
To go back to just talking about our son, he's 20, so obviously he's the oldest. We have a younger child, which is 10. It's a 10-year difference between them. She was the surprise. Um, but in all of that, Terrell has been a blessing. I pray for patience, and I tell people, be careful, pray for, because God will give you what you need. And I pray for patience, and He blessed us with Terrell. Um, just his journey of, just as a mom, knowing that something quite wasn't right. He wasn't developing as his peers were. Um, so I would push and say something needs to happen. Dad was like, "Oh, he's okay. You tripping? You may be a little, have a little anxiety. First child, you learning pretty much as the plane is being built in flight." But I was at church one Sunday, and I saw a flyer for ECI services there in Indiana. And I was like, well, let me call and let me just see, because some of the signs, he never really said mama, daddy. He always cried. He never said bottle, eat, or any of those things. He started walking a little bit later, probably when he was around like 18, almost close to 20 months of age. So we called and they did an evaluation, and the provider that did the evaluation said, hey, we suspect that he may be on the spectrum. And this lady sat in my living room and just basically told us, hey, this is what he's not going to accomplish. It was almost like a death sentence, about just really a laundry list of the things that he can't do. He's not going to be able to be potty trained. He's not going to be able to tie his shoes. He may not be able to ride a bike. You may have to care for him for the rest of your life. I took that as a challenge. So everything she sat there and said that he wasn't able to do were the very things that he accomplished and is capable of doing. But it's most definitely, I equate it to like the grieving process, because you get it, you get the diagnosis, and it's like, okay, what did I do? What should I done? What can I do? Is there anybody around us that understands what we're going through? With him, it was learning about what was disability and what wasn't. One saying that we gravitate to was that disability does not mean inability. We made sure that we try to have him at activities around his peers, just treat him as any other kid. Um, so, I mean, with that being said, it was just being mindful of the people that was around us, that village around us as well, having that support. Um, Communication, open communication about how we honestly felt. It gets you have those moments of frustration. Terrell can attest. We would have arguments where I would say, hey, dude, you get to go to work and get a break. I'm like in this 24 hours. It was moments to where I was in the closet and we was both crying to one another. But like I said, just with prayer, with village, with seeking out resources, we were able to make the journey to now.
I have to say I can truly relate to a lot of what you're speaking to. And I wanted to go back when you talked about it felt like a death sentence. It felt like, when you were talking to them, what he's not going to do, what he's not going to accomplish. And you took that as a challenge. Often in different systems, school systems, sometimes you meet with those who are telling you what they can and cannot do. And if you don't have a support, and if you don't have a faith, if you don't believe, if you don't have that, it can cause many different things, many thoughts that will cause you to enable your child.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them telling me my daughter wouldn't be potty trained, or she would never do this. I said, well, what can she do? I was at that point, because it was like, do you have one thing in this meeting that's a strength? And so I almost fell into that. And I remember one day I was overwhelmed or frustrated, and I said, you're going to clean up your room today. You're going to clean up your room. When I tell you, she cleaned that room up and put those shoes in a straight line, I said, you got to be kidding me. You mean to tell me all this time I've been doing everything as if she couldn't do it, because I allowed that seed to be planted in my head that she couldn't. And I'm walking on eggshells, because this is my first time. I'm not experienced that. And so it's really encouraging to hear others say, hey, I understand. I've had that similar story. And for those out there who's watching, just like she said, disability does not mean inability. And we don't want to get in the way of our kids progressing either, because I don't care what people say. I don't care what it look like. You don't know what God's going to do when he does it and how he does it. So thank you for sharing, and that was really good. Now, T. Lockett, can you share your experience, your perspective?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you again for the opportunity. It's as mom said, it hit her first. And for me, from a male perspective, dads, uh, I overlooked some things. Didn't necessarily look into it with a fine tooth because my thing is two jobs to provide and to protect and provide. So there were some things that mom did not see, or some things that mom saw that I wasn't necessarily aware of. But I think the thing that was very pivotal and very key for us is that I was at a point of a career change. For about 5 years, I was working at U.S. Steel. I was in the steel mill. Got my degree from IU, bachelor's in sociology, and I just kept saying, "Well, I don't want to work swing shift all my life." Me and my boy D, we were talking during that time, Lex, and I said, "Well, I need to do something." And when I tell you that this thing called education, more specifically special education, fell in my lap. So I started to acquire it from the theoretical educational point, where mom was kind of seeing things from the side of uh, the parent perspective. So it's just something about how awesome God is. He put that thing together to where she was on the parent advocacy side, and I was starting to pick up books and learn about, I don't know what Indiana state law is now, but it was Article 7 at the time. I started to learn about the procedural safeguards and the parent rights and diagnosing reading difficulties and uh, things of that nature. So I was able to attack it from that point to where we could apply some theory to what we were seeing as far as, just from the emotional side, from the heart. We were prophesied that our ministry was outside of the church. And I didn't say this, but I've been a musician in church since the age of 13, playing by ear. And I always thought that that was my ministry. Like I always knew what that was. That was my gift. It was so obvious that that was the deal. That was the deal. But Archbishop William Hudson prophesied to my wife and I. We were at Upper Room Church on Taft Street in the GI. I got to rep GI while I'm here. And he said that our ministry was outside of the church. And I said, well, man, I'm scratching my head like, it's so obvious what my ministry was or is. At the time, it was nowhere but the church. But I'll tell you, since relocating here to Texas, we've been here, it doesn't even seem that long, 2013. This is 2023. It's really been a ministry assignment to really be able to support on the basis of advocacy for individuals with disabilities. So, like mom said, we would start to, in the beginnings, really assess ourselves, like look at each other from under the microscope. Terrell was premature, and we spent some time with him in neonatal. So we were just thinking, like, man, what did we do wrong? You didn't carry him the full term. Maybe that's what the deal was. Then we to kind of think back on, uh, man, did we do this? We didn't do that. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. Maybe this was a cause. We've even tried to have him in daycares at the time. Would put him out, and I remember it was a daycare in Maryville. I don't even want to say the name here. I don't know if they're still in existence or not, but there was a director at the daycare that says, I've dealt with severely autistic kids before. We didn't know what autism was at the time. They just told us your child cannot be here. We don't have the services and supports for him. So it's just always been uh, my duty and responsibility as a dad of a son with a disability to really uh, be that educational support. Mom waited on me to uh, obtain the the skills necessary to get the funding and financing to support the family as a whole. Uh, but in the same sense, it's always been twofold, to where it's allowed us an opportunity to make school system's great. So is there a perfect school system? No, ma'am. Are there people that mean well? Yes. Are there people that don't mean well? Yes. It's our duty and responsibility to make sure that they do right by not only ours, but we call all babies ours. We could be in the mall, we could be at Walmart, we could be at the grocery store, we could be at Home Depot. Those are just our kids, period. Blood, no blood. And it's just been that thing. One thing I would like to say is this: when you think in terms of advocacy for individuals with disabilities, they call it the ARD process here, admission, review, and dismissal process. But it's an IEP meeting. In Indiana, we call it a case conference, or they may call it an IEP meeting. As a parent, I could say this: I could advocate and fight for kids that were not mine all day, every day, hard, go tooth nail, A to Z. But when it came to mine, I felt so emotionally drained that I needed to hire an advocate or someone to be able to tell my story as a parent. And a lot of my parents, my physical parents, my mom and dad would get frustrated with me because they would say, "You fight for everybody else's kids. You need to make sure you're advocating and fighting for my grandson." And it's like, Mama, Daddy, I hear you, I feel you on that. But an allegiance or a network collaborative partnership of individuals advocating for one another, the village is so necessary because the emotional impact is so great that I would want to fight and bring that heat as much as I bring it on a daily basis. But it's just something about when it's for your own. I guess it's like a hairdresser. She does everybody else's hair, but can't find the time or the energy to do her own. It's like I've faced that, and that's kind of been one of my greatest challenges when it comes to my own, making sure that I put that same energy, that 110% into mine. I love them, but it's been difficult along the way to do that. But now we're at a point now of really seeing the transitional element side of it as he phases into adulthood. And as Tanika was mentioning, uh, there's this mean 100 is the mean, 100 is the average, so to speak, when you consider the bell curve. And if you come one standard deviation off of the bell curve, you hit 85, and we start to look from 100 into 85 as a student, maybe learning disabled, specific learning disability, and we're starting to come down. When we come two standard deviations below the mean, then we start to look at more uh, mild to moderate, and even more so severe and profound disabilities on that bell curve. And it might be a little technical here, but when you look on the opposite side of that is where we have our gifted uh, kids, our exceptional kids, just understanding the whole scope of education, differentiated instruction, accommodations versus modifications. One thing that I hold near and dear to my heart as far as an ability to do is to be able to connect with those parents that you see. You'll see them scared. You'll see them nervous. You'll see them resistant. You'll see them shameful because of the stigma that's been put on special education. So just to kind of connect with them and being able to connect and say, not only I'm not just sitting here across from this table as Terrell Lockett, the administrator, I'm sitting across from this table as Terrell Lockett, the dad. And dads don't get an opportunity to talk much. So a lot of my success really has been appealing and connecting with dads because it's just something special about a dad and a mom together working together, and it's just a god-given thing that I'm thankful to have the partner that I have, because marriages dissolve for two reasons. Well, probably several reasons. Finances can kill a marriage, and an individual with a disability, we blame each other. It was your fault. I can't even make kids with disabilities. It could make it real ugly. So I could truly say in this worldwide web, whatever platform we're on, that God has given me the wife that I need along this journey to be able to do this thing. And I wouldn't have it any other way. God has been good to us, and it's truly a blessing to live this life. It's truly a blessing. And I could go on and on, but I'm gonna cut off. I'm gonna cut off.
Wow, you know what? That's awesome because you really hit a lot of different things. I have questions for you, but you didn't pull some other stuff out. Now I got to, I'm glad you brought up sometimes in our communities, exceptional communities, apologizing for feeling frustrated. Often, oh, I'm sorry, or apologizing for maybe the behaviors, apologizing. And I was reading this one quote, and I think it was a new I don't know if it's We Rock the Spectrum gym because it's coming to Indiana now, but it said where your kid does not have to say sorry. And I think that should be the same for the parents. We shield them, we protect them. We often, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry for feeling this way, or I should. No, I'm so glad you said, you know what? It was frustrating.
Yeah.
It was some times where, as Tanika said, I was in the closet. We crying.
Yeah, crying.
This journey ain't for the weak. It really isn't. And although sometimes we come out and we're smiling and we're still going, these are things that we face 365 days of the year.
Yes.
And God chose us. And it's a blessing. But I'm telling you, your prayer life definitely is increased. And your character is truly developed.
And your patience. Folks say, Lockett, man, you're just so patient, man. How do you get that way? This thing will make you patient.
Oh, yes.
When you have a child that can't tell you his needs and wants, that you have to sit there and look and kind of figure it out and try and see what he's giving you. Your patience will be developed. Okay. I have patience because of God's blessings. God bless me.
Our babies teach us so much. Our young adults, I've learned so much, and not only about them, but about me. I'm like, now wait a minute. It's like I'm learning a lot about me and my capacity. And sometimes, we need to learn about that. We need to really be honest with ourselves. And even those times, like both of you talked about community. I don't know how much I can stress. You need a community. Some people, that's not a part of the exceptional community may not understand. I remember I'm like, when people would I'm like, y'all don't understand. You just don't understand. This is a different walk. But I need a community, and I had to learn to stop shutting everybody out.
Yes.
Because I shut the door real quick, lock it, and throw away the key. But I needed people on this journey. I needed the support. I needed somebody to say, hey, you got this, girl. Keep going. It's okay. Even if they didn't know what was going on in that day, So that community part is really, really important.
Lex, when we speak in terms of community, I can't thank the YMCA in this area. There's a outfit called Miracle League in Houston. It was one of the first times in my life. I don't care how tired I was. We want to protect our kids, period, but more specifically, kids with disabilities, to where we don't want anybody looking at them crazy. We don't want nobody, making that side eye, nothing in that regard. It wasn't until, honestly speaking, I'm gonna just be very transparent. I felt like I could let my guard down when I accepted and went into that Miracle League community. It's baseball. And you had families with their exceptional children that were able to come to the baseball field and play baseball. We were able to be husband and wife and sit back and hold hands, relax. Didn't have a care in the world for once in our life because we took him to a community to where those people that were there got it. They understood because they had someone there as well. That's when it really became apparent to me that we tend to suffer, if we want to call it suffering. We tend to be embarrassed. It's an embarrassing thing until we embrace it and accept what it is. So we hide it. We don't say anything about it. And in us not saying anything about it, we find ourselves by ourselves. But I think, uh, what is it? TEAM, team, together, everyone achieves more. That this platform is so important to raise awareness. And if there's individuals here, I don't know anybody that doesn't know our story to some extent or know Terrell, but if there's individuals here that don't know, I encourage us to connect and to reach
Mhm.
out. Each one reach one because that community is so important. It's very important.
And
That's
just
so
to
good.
piggyback a little bit off of what Terrell said, just throughout Terrell's life, we have been blessed to have great educators from him, for him, from his, I think back then it was called PPCD, but his first teacher, Miss Tracy Pass. She was the one that was like, "Hey, mom, we got him. We understand. We got it. Stop sending those pull up to school because he potty trained." It was that village. Even when we relocated from Indiana here to Texas, we moved to Houston. First year teacher. Then it was Sarah Hoffman, but now she's married, Miss Jackson. Um, she poured into him. I mean, she gave so much to him to where by the time he left elementary school, he was reading like level one, level two books. She gave a lot of resources. They had a book, her church, they created a book based on her brother who had exceptional needs of different organizations, camps. That's how we found connected with Miracle League and YMCA because of her. It was just things like that, connecting with parents. Even with his when he turned 16, he had a sweet 16 birthday party. That was the first time he had a birthday party to where his peers were there.
Yeah.
It was two of his friends. And we were so excited and hyped, and he was excited. So it's just little pockets like that, pockets of light of individuals that poured into us, whether they know it or not. I try to express my gratitude at every given opportunity that I can, but it was just running into individuals like that that deposited into us. And the more resources and the more they deposited into us, the more and more we were depositing into other families and just shouting like, "Hey, have you heard of this resource? Lead is this. Autism on the Seas is a great organization." Just hearing those things, and even here in we're now in the Dallas area, connecting with teachers here, and just hey, thank you for just being those lights and those points of support for us. Having colleagues just saying, hey, no problem being a buddy for your son in Miracle League. You know, we have an opportunity here for him to where if he wants to come and wash dishes at our restaurant to gain um, employment skills, we're willing to do that. So we've had many rays of light that have just gleamed and shined into our lives, and it has been a support for us with our son and our daughter.
I'm glad you said that because one of the barriers sometimes is the resources. Many times, some of our exceptional families they don't even know where to look. They don't even know where to go. And I know they have different therapies and and clinics as such. But as I listen to you speak on all these different leagues and things like that, sometimes the missing piece for some of our families is they just don't know. And I'm so glad that you're speaking to this because again, it's about hope. It's about, creating awareness that there are things out there that can be a support outside of your just immediate family. We need to be able to, find other resources in addition to that because it really does help. It's so many that don't know, like, or you have to go move somewhere else, or you have to, they do have a lot of Facebook groups and things like that, but like things now, or I know you talked about so many different, the baseball league, the YMCA, all these different things. And how can that be a present help for many of our families? I know it can. And just the thought that, you know what, I'm not out here alone, and my child can be a part of a community and still thrive and still thrive. I wanted to mention something you said about, you couldn't understand what he was stating. And, I always say you cannot not communicate, but finding a way to listen to what our children are trying to say. That was one of my fears because my daughter couldn't speak at all at that time. I didn't know if someone was going to hurt her, or, if somebody would, do something crazy and I have to, so I was just like, I'm not sending my baby. No, no, she is not no. I was like, absolutely not. And so it encouraged me. I started learning sign. I said, well, I got online and I went with this lady named Miss Patty, and she sung everything. And my kids love music. So we sign it, and all of a sudden she's picking up this sign. I'm like, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
know I can teach you this one,
Yeah.
and she started learning more.
Mhm.
And then she started speaking, saying some words here and there, and really I didn't know what she understood. I know. I was just, it's kind of like you said, I'm learning, I'm trying to figure it out. And I was real hard on myself. I'm like, I'm a social worker. I should know, and like you brought up, I can advocate, I'm out there and I'm doing
Yes.
everything,
Yeah.
but when it hits home, it's some kind of different.
Mhm.
It's some kind of different. And
Yes.
so, and I love my child, and I just felt like I was at a point where, what do I do? I
Mhm.
felt like I was sometimes helpless because I
Mhm.
wanted to understand. I wanted to, make sure that she was safe. And I had no choice but to educate myself. It
Mhm.
wasn't an option. It was like, okay, you gonna sink or sail. What are we doing here? And
Mhm.
so I had to get up. I had to learn something. I had to get over myself because I was having a pity party. And
Yeah.
I said, look, she's moving. She keep moving and
Mhm.
shaking. I need to
Mhm.
come, I need to come through.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was
Let.
just like, wait a minute. And so just to hear your story, oh my God. And then you offered for people to connect. That's another thing. So
Mhm.
many times we're communicating, y'all, but we ain't connecting.
Mhm.
And we need
Yeah.
to communicate and connect.
If we're not connecting, I want to go to sleep tonight, and I will, with the opportunity that what God has blessed us with as far as resources, we're able to share. We can only receive when we have our hand extended to give. So we are thankful for this opportunity to give. You said something, Lex, on the basis of what the baby could not do. And I just wrote something down. Focus on what they can do, not what
Mhm.
they can't. Focus on what
Exactly.
they can do and not what they can't. When we
Right.
talk in terms of receptive and expressive language, I had to understand that Terrell's receptive language, he understood everything I was telling him to do. He understood everything I was telling that dude to do. His
Mhm.
expressive language wasn't intact. So when I started to, I'm a behavior specialist too. Uh, uh, I started to understand behavior from the standpoint that behavior is communication. And a lot of
Mhm.
times we'd like to get a kid into a cultural trap, and I'm talking more emotional disturbances at this point. We like to get a kid into a cultural trap, but we don't understand the culture, or we like to get a kid into a disabling trap, but we don't understand the manifestations of the disability. It's important for us to raise awareness so to the point to where across this state, special education is federally recognized, federally funded, that irregardless of what you're in, I would recommend uh, uh, educators first and foremost know the law, know what the
Mhm.
procedural safeguards are, but parents in the same regard really understand that when they go into these meetings with their kids, that it's not it should not be an intimidating factor as to where it's them against the school. It's designed to be partnership. And that's one
Mhm.
thing I like to close on. And you're probably going to have to bring us back because it's 7:42 and we could talk till 11:42 with information that I'd like to share. But it's a partnership. And I just
Yeah.
want to encourage parents to really know their rights, know what their role is in the IEP process for their students.
Now, I want to say something because you brought something up. One of the questions I was going to ask you both: how can educators and parents effectively, and I want to say that word effectively, collaborate to provide the best support and opportunities for exceptional children, not
Mhm.
just as children, but as they transition into adulthood? Because there's a lot of, things that I don't know because I have not crossed that bridge yet,
Hmm.
even to the fact that, learning about able accounts. I'm like, what is that? Who knew? I didn't know about
Hmm.
that. Learning about, oh, you do know when your child turns 18, you have to get custody of them. Like, I was like, what do you
Yeah,
mean? Guardianship. But I'm mama.
yeah,
So it's so
yeah.
much stuff that we are
Hmm.
not aware of,
Hmm.
that
Mhm.
platforms, such as these, and I know there are other platforms to bring awareness. We need to get
Mhm.
that information out there. We need to talk about it. But I do want to know, what are both of your opinions on how can we effectively collaborate to provide the support and opportunities for our exceptional families?
Um, well,
Mama, go first.
okay. Well, in my current role as a preschool teacher, servicing young children with suspected um, disabilities or learning disabilities, and I say suspected because I get kiddos when they're like 3, 4 years old. One thing that I really, really gravitate towards doing is having a real conversation with the parents. Just because the parents have been with the child all their life, I really consider parents the first teacher in a child's life. So the parent is the expert. So I'm trying to acquire all the things about your child over meetings, not just one meeting. I'm talking about having several conversations to get a great idea of the capabilities, the strengths, and the weaknesses of your child. I always leave a open communication. I communicate with my parents across all platforms, whether it's email, um, I use GroupMe. I send out parent letters. I send out parent questionnaires outside of the IEP process. I ask parents, what are your goals for your child? I understand what the evaluation says. I understand that we had the IEP meeting and we have goals. We have academic goals, but it may be something that we didn't touch in this meeting that you're looking for your child, that you desire that your child works on. Um, like I said, I make sure I communicate as much as I can with my parents during arrival and dismissal. If a parent has a question, anything like that, talk to me. What's your concern? I call parents throughout the process, throughout the 6 weeks, just to give them an idea of what's going on. Hey, I'm a parent. Hey, mom. Hey, dad. Hey, uncle, auntie, whoever. I'm just giving you a call, let you know that, hey, this is what we're doing in class, and this is what your child is doing now, and this is what we're working towards. I always start, it's, it's the sandwich method. I always start with a positive. Then I mention something that we can work on, and then I mention another positive. I mean, the parents know their child. They know what they see what their child's capabilities are. Most time people focus on what they can't do. I've read IEP paperwork from previous teachers, and it's all about this child can't do this because of the disability. The child can't do this because of the disability. And I'm like, okay, what can the child do? But I just make sure, like I say, I just have an open communication with parents. I most definitely value their opinion. I search out their opinion and just let them know, hey, I am here as a partner in this. You're not alone. And I share my personal story with my parents. So when I tell them, I understand where you are. I was here, like, if I do my math right, 17 years ago in this very spot. For the first time in life, you're letting go of your child to someone and you don't have control and you can't see. And it's like, I just make sure the parents know that, hey, we are a partner and I'm here to advocate for you as well as your child in this process.
Can I piggyback right there, Lex?
Yes, yes.
Students and parents, teachers, students and parents don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Plain and simple. Our superintendent in the district, he said something. He said, communicate 7 different times, 7 different ways. So what I would have to agree with Tanika from the teacher perspective on those things. Communicate from a parent perspective. We've established. I mean, if it was very analog and we just had a notebook and we're just going in and what did Terrell do today? Put it in the notebook. Happy face, sad face, whatever kind of face. We needed that level of communication. Parents need to know and understand that if there's any concerns as it pertains to the child's IEP, that they can request to have a meeting to discuss the concerns of the IEP, and it must be granted to the parents within a reasonable time at a mutually agreed upon location and at a mutually agreed upon time. But ultimately, parents are sending their best and teachers come to give of themselves their best. We have students that are in classrooms or in school buildings for at least 8 hours of the day, and they're probably with the teachers more oftentimes than they're with the parents. That collaborative communication is so important because it's really a door-to-door service, customer service from door to door. So I think when relationship is built, this is a phrase of expression I train with a lot of times. Rules without relationship lead to rebellion. It's important to build effective collaborative relationships between the parents and the teachers by any means necessary. What does that mean? Well, a school district, a lot of times schools will open up family nights and have movie nights and have there's a Halloween trunk or treat, or kids are playing baseball, or kids are playing soccer, or kids are playing football, or kids are getting baptized. It's like we didn't know that our teachers were real when we would see them in Walmart. It's like, oh, I see so and so and so and so here. It's like, be real. We live in an information age to where we can get access to any piece of information that we need. We live in an information age to where we can communicate 7 different times, 7 different ways. I think that communication and relationship allows us to be able to see when Johnny's probably not having such a good day. We all have seen this picture with the tip of the iceberg being only like 10%. And below the surface, there's this huge gap that we do not see. But just with the understanding of something that we call precipitating factors, when you communicate effectively, you'll understand what precipitating factors are. What are precipitating factors, Lockett? If I come in tomorrow and Johnny's not looking a certain way, he's probably lethargic. If I've communicated with mom and mom let me know the cause of behavior may be, hey, he didn't sleep well last night because maybe it was loud down the street, or he didn't sleep well last night. And the teacher can tell the parent he's been pulling his ear. He may have an ear infection. We just really need to understand that we're there to help each other. Parent, help the teacher. Ultimately, both of us want to help this student. And how can we do that?
That's awesome. Collaboration is necessity.
Yes,
It's a
ma'am.
necessity. And you're right. You're going to have to come back on, both of you, because there's so much more. The thing is adding value. We talk about, our different careers, and we talk about different things, and that's great. The success is great, but it's nothing like significance. And
Yeah,
when you add value to others, that's what we do.
yeah.
It's something that's like a legacy that will live on, something that money can't, it is no money, no dollar amount that you can put on that.
Mhm.
Because one thing that you may have said tonight may change the entire trajectory of someone's whole world, just on the brink of saying, I can't do this no more. This
Mhm.
is too much. I don't
Mhm.
know about IEP, DEP, TEP. I don't know about none of that.
Mhm.
I don't. Oh, it is okay to be frustrated. Wait a minute.
Mhm.
And married couples can make it through this.
Mhm.
You've talked about it, you discussed, and you just tipped on it. But
Mhm.
there's so much more that we can share with exceptional communities and all communities, because
Mhm.
it is necessary. There's so many different things that happen, barriers that prevent our families from sometimes reaching out, you know. And one thing I don't want, is for our community, our kids, to be mistreated because of
Yes, ma'am.
frustration, because you felt like you didn't have an outlet,
Mhm.
or that you were on this island all by yourself. And so when
Absolutely.
we bring people in who live it, who's living it, and who's going on this journey to say,
Mhm.
hey, listen, you can call me. Listen,
Mhm.
you can inbox me. How can I add value to you? How can I help
Mhm.
you?
Mhm.
Everybody's journey is different, but I know one thing we do have in common. We have been chosen.
Mhm.
And this is an exceptional journey. And I appreciate you all taking the time to come and just share, just talk, and share your stories with people, because it's going to bless someone and it's going to help someone. I truly thank you for being guiding lights. And I will be calling you again, because we need more light.
We
We need
need it.
more light. And the resources you was coming, I'm like, it's like, so how do we find these things? Every, state, I know they offer different things, but
Mhm.
it's, if we can have it, and hey, this is where you can go, this is where you can go, oh, you need this, here you go. it,
Mhm.
it will really help people. And like I
Mhm.
said, were amazing. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey. And like I said, you've already said that you will come back, so
Oh,
I'm going to hold you to it.
oh
And
yeah,
I
we'll definitely come back. Les, I wanted to say something. You were talking frustration. There's a thing we talk about, rational detachment. Rational detachment allows you to be able to think more so with your head and not with your heart as far as emotions are concerned. And
Mhm.
oftentimes we got to just step away for a moment when we find ourselves becoming overwhelmed. But we may have to execute something called 6 T's: think things thoroughly through, then talk. If it's a hobby, if it's just going for a walk, if it's just woosah, taking a deep breath and then
Mhm.
getting back to it. Rational detachment is just important in this journey of supporting and raising your exceptional student or your exceptional kid. It's
Mhm.
important to be able to have an outlet. We got to have those
Yeah.
outlets.
Yeah.
So true, you know, and I'm gonna tell you, not just I know moms and Tanika, you said something about, well, you go out, you get to go to work. I'm here all day.
Yeah.
Listen, you almost made me do a whole wall shout, girl. A whole wall shout up in here,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, it was plenty of times to where we had that conversation, and it's after a while, it was really for me, it was a level of maturity and understanding that the role was different. It wasn't, it wasn't, it was about, it wasn't about equal, it was about equal, what was it, equality, not, it wasn't an equal if I'm trying to find the words to explain it, but I just had to understand the role was different.
Yes, yes.
Yet,
That was
it
a good
wasn't
point.
equal. Yeah,
That's
so
so good.
just
That's
coming to that understanding is like, okay, his role and his responsibility is this. And he's dealing with the outside world and what's inside the house. I'm dealing
Mhm.
with what's inside the house.
mhm, mhm.
And it just really, like I said, it was just a point of maturity for me to understand. Like I said, the role was different. It's like, okay, I got you, boo. I
Mhm.
got you. But it's gonna come a time I'm gonna need to
Yeah.
get out this house.
Uh, you know,
Les, we're gonna have to do a couple discussion. You're gonna have to bring my boy D on here because
but
I'm
you
gonna need some backup. I'm gonna need
listen,
some backup.
but you know, she listen, props, listen, I do understand, even understanding that's a whole nother guiding lights, okay? Because you're right, you know, they have the weight of the world, they have the weight of being a provider,
Right,
and then dealing with my emotional.
right.
Because I'm a pill. I could be a pill. I know, you know. And when I'm, on 10,
Mhm.
sometimes he got to bring his sister down because, it's all day, all day. I've been doing this. And
Mhm.
you come home and you're like, so what you do? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But then he was the biggest support. And I have to
Yeah.
thank God for that. I couldn't do this couldn't do it without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, she a whole different child when the dad is here, a whole different child. I said, he said one time, and she's gonna sit down. I'm
Mhm.
over here,
Mhm.
I'm on number 3. He come
Yeah.
in, whole different story. So I need his support. And that's
Yeah.
a very good thing. You need the people in your house and preparing them. I didn't get to ask about your daughter
Mhm.
and her role with Terrell. And because I had a episode on about siblings, and I love bringing siblings on just to. So, what is your take? What was your
Mhm.
experience, and how was that? How were you able to explain? Okay, okay, his needs are different. They're not, these. He may need this, opposed to you may need that, without her feeling like all the attention was with Terrell.
Mhm.
And we're gonna definitely need more time. But I do want you to just touch on it a little. I know we got a little bit of time, just a little bit. Oh, we really don't. It's 8 o'clock. But okay, just give me a little bit.
Well, I mean, I'll let Dad like answer that one because she's a true daddy's girl, and it's like what Daddy said is golden. He explains a lot. Um, like I mentioned before, she is um gifted and she understands a lot beyond her years. She's 10, but she's the big little sister.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we really try to give her time and her moments just as the little sister. But over time, she understands her role. She understands that she too has to advocate for her brother. And she's been a great help to us. She really has.
That's good. That's good.
Let-
Well, you know,
let's we really haven't had to do a whole lot of pumping and prepping to get her into that role. It's just kind of like you experience it every day, and she just uh, she just assumes the responsibility. Something real funny, and I'm gonna end with this, is that we've been big Astros fans, and Tennille's been rooting for the Astros. Well, the Texas Rangers won the World Series, and I was riding in the car with Mama, and Tennille didn't know Mama was in the car with me, and she said, "Dad, we got to get us a Texas Rangers shirt." I said, "Well, who do you think I need to get one for?" She said, "Well, me and you, of course. That's Daddy's girl. We need to get us a Texas Rangers shirt." And she said, "And we need to look out for T-Rail." She calls her brother T-Rail. I said, "Okay, we'll get him one too." I said, "What do you think about Mom?" She said, "Well, no, she'll be all right. She doesn't need one." So if there's anybody that's going to come along with her when she's prepping something to eat, she's going to put something in there for her. She's going to put something in there for her brother. When it's coming down to his needs, she just gets it. And she's done that. It kind of takes away her childhood somewhat, but does it really take away from her childhood, or does it add even that much more so towards instinct? Does it add even that much more so towards character? And I think when we tend to look at things biblically, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on those things. We tend not to think on what her childhood, what's taken away from her childhood, as much as we're thinking of what's been added to as a result of the exceptional blessing that God has given us. But it's great, but we got to do some more time. I look
Yeah.
forward to an invite to come back again. And thank
Oh,
you very much.
it's coming soon in December. Got to put that out there. Well, for
Got it.
all those who've been hanging in here with us tonight, we thank you for joining us on Guiding Lights. I want you to like and share. Sharing is caring. We want to make sure that we create awareness in our exceptional communities and all communities. So again, please like and share. I want to thank my very special guests, Tanika and Terrell and Tanika Lockett. I am so grateful for you coming on and sharing your journey. I look forward to you coming on next month in December, and so you can give us some more. And again, thank you all for watching, and make sure that you share, because we want to get this out to everybody. You all have a good one. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.